woman calling 911, begging for help. A police officer just minutes away, fully equipped and trained to respond. But instead of racing to save her life, he stopped for pizza. And by the time anyone realized what had happened, it was already too late. This isn't just a story about negligence. It's about a betrayal so profound it would expose the darkest failures of the very system designed to protect us.
The 911 call came in at 9:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in November. The dispatcher's voice was calm but urgent as she documented the details. A woman, terrified, whispering that someone had broken into her home. She could hear them downstairs. She was hiding in a bedroom closet with her phone. She was begging for police to come quickly. Please send someone. I can hear him. He's in my house. Please hurry. The dispatcher did everything right. She kept the caller on the line. She provided reassurance. She gathered critical information about the location, the situation, the potential threat. And she immediately dispatched the nearest available unit to respond with priority code meaning lights. Sirens, maximum urgency. The nearest available unit was Officer Marcus Webb, a 7-year veteran of the department. His patrol car was approximately 4 minutes away from the address. His dashboard computer received the dispatch notification. The priority code flashed on his screen. Every piece of the system functioned exactly as designed, except Officer Marcus. Webb never responded to the call. What happened instead would become the centerpiece of one of the most damning prosecutions of police negligence in recent memory. Because while a woman was hiding in her closet, terrified for her life, Officer Webb made a decision that would cost that woman everything and eventually cost him his career, his freedom, and his future. He went to get pizza, not because he was already committed to another emergency, not because his vehicle had broken down or he was incapacitated, but because, according to later testimony and evidence, he was hungry. And he decided his dinner was more important than the life of the person calling for help. The timeline, pieced together through GPS tracking, body camera footage, dispatch logs, and surveillance video, tells a story of casual cruelty and institutional failure. 9:47 p.m. Emergency call received and dispatched to Officer Webb's unit. 9:48 p.m. Officer Webb's patrol car GPS shows him continuing on his current route, away from the emergency address. 9:52 p.m. Officer Webb's vehicle arrives at Sal's Pizzeria, approximately 2 miles from the emergency location in the opposite direction. 9:53 p.m. Body camera footage shows Officer Webb entering the restaurant, greeting the staff by name, ordering a large pepperoni pizza and a soda. Meanwhile, the 911 dispatcher was trying to reach Officer Webb. His radio was on. The body cam captured the dispatcher's increasingly urgent attempts to confirm he was en route. But Webb never acknowledged the calls. His body camera microphone picked up the radio traffic, but he simply ignored it while chatting with restaurant staff about the weather and last weekend's football game. At 9:58 p.m., 11 minutes after the initial call, a second unit was finally dispatched from much farther away. The dispatcher had realized something was wrong. The primary responding officer wasn't acknowledging or responding. Protocol required reassigning the call. At 10:07 p.m., the second unit arrived at the residence. The front door was ajar. They entered with weapons drawn, calling out. What they found would haunt everyone involved in the case. The victim, 34-year-old Jennifer Martinez, was discovered in her bedroom. She had been stabbed multiple times. The medical examiner would later testify that some of her injuries were sustained in the minutes immediately before police arrival, meaning she was still alive during much of the time Officer Webb was ordering pizza. She died before the ambulance arrived. The official time of death was estimated at approximately 10:15 p.m., nearly 30 minutes after she'd called 911 begging for help. At 10:11 p.m. Officer Webb's body camera shows him leaving Sal's Pizzeria with a pizza box and drink. He gets in his patrol car and checks his dispatch computer. Only then does he appear to realize he'd missed an emergency call. His body camera captures him saying, "Oh shit," under his breath as he reads the notifications. He drove to the scene then. But by the time he arrived, the victim was dead. Other officers were securing the crime scene, and his opportunity to prevent the tragedy was long gone. The initial response from the department was to treat it as a tragic coincidence. Officer Webb claimed he'd been dealing with another matter, that his radio had malfunctioned, that he hadn't received the dispatch notification clearly. The department was prepared to accept these explanations and move on, but Jennifer Martinez's family wasn't satisfied. They hired an attorney who demanded a full investigation. And when that attorney began reviewing the evidence, the GPS logs, the body camera footage, the dispatch records, a very different story emerged. The body camera footage was damning. It showed Officer Webb clearly hearing the dispatch calls and choosing to ignore them. It showed him leisurely ordering food while those calls grew more urgent. It showed the exact moment he realized he'd been caught, not when he learned someone had died, but when he realized his failure to respond had been documented. The GPS data proved he'd driven away from the emergency, not toward it. The restaurant surveillance footage showed him taking his time, chatting with staff, waiting for his order to be prepared fresh. Not the behavior of someone dealing with an emergency situation. The department was forced to act. Officer Webb was suspended immediately. An internal affairs investigation was opened. And as the evidence mounted, the case was referred to the district attorney's office for potential criminal charges. The DA's decision to prosecute a police officer for negligence was highly unusual. Typically, these cases are handled internally through departmental discipline. But prosecutors argued this went beyond mere negligence. This was willful dereliction of duty, resulting in death. This was an officer who made a conscious choice to prioritize his personal comfort over someone's life. The charges filed were serious: criminally negligent homicide, official misconduct, and willful failure to perform duty. If convicted on all counts, Officer Webb faced up to 20 years in prison. The case became a flashpoint in debates about police accountability. Supporters of Officer Webb argued he was being scapegoated, that police make difficult decisions constantly, that one mistake shouldn't destroy a career. Critics argued this wasn't a mistake, it was a choice. A choice that revealed contempt for the people he was sworn to protect. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The prosecution's case was methodical and devastating. They presented the 911 call. Jurors listened to Jennifer Martinez's terrified whispers, her desperate pleas for help. They showed the dispatch notifications that Officer Webb received and ignored. They played the body camera footage showing him at the pizza restaurant while the dispatcher tried repeatedly to reach him. Expert witnesses testified about police protocols and emergency response standards. They explained that in a priority call situation, an officer is required to acknowledge dispatch immediately and proceed to the location with all possible speed. Stopping for personal reasons during an emergency response is a clear violation of department policy and professional duty. The medical examiner's testimony was particularly difficult. She explained that Jennifer Martinez had sustained injuries at different times. Some were inflicted early in the attack. Others came later. With proper emergency response timing, she likely would have survived. The delay in police arrival was, in the medical examiner's professional opinion, a contributing factor to her death. The defense attempted several strategies. They argued Officer Webb's radio equipment was faulty, but body camera footage showed him clearly hearing other radio traffic. They argued he was responding to another call, but GPS and dispatch records proved he had no other assignments. They argued he didn't understand the severity of the situation. But the priority code was clear. and his training explicitly covered what that code meant. Most controversially, the defense attempted to argue that even if Officer Webb had responded immediately, the outcome might have been the same. Perhaps Jennifer Martinez would have died regardless. Perhaps the attacker would have completed the assault before police arrival. The prosecution's response was powerful. We don't know what might have happened if Officer Webb had done his job. But we know with certainty what did happen when he chose pizza over duty. We know Jennifer Martinez called for help. We know help was minutes away. We know that help chose not to come. And we know she died waiting for a rescue that was literally eating dinner while she bled out. The jury was shown a split-screen video that became the most powerful piece of evidence in the trial. On one side, the timestamp from Jennifer's 911 call as she whispered desperate pleas for help. On the other side, synchronized to the exact same timestamps, body camera footage of Officer Webb laughing with restaurant staff about a joke, completely at ease. Completely indifferent to the emergency notification, literally sounding on his radio in the background. The visual contrast was devastating. Life and death separated by a choice. A woman begging for help. An officer ignoring her to order extra cheese. Character witnesses tried to rehabilitate Officer Webb's reputation. Fellow officers testified he'd been a good cop in the past. Community members described positive interactions. His family tearfully described him as a caring person who'd made one terrible mistake. But prosecutors presented another side. They showed a pattern of complaints not about excessive force or misconduct, but about indifference. Multiple instances of residents complaining that Officer Webb seemed uninterested in helping them, that he'd been dismissive or slow to respond. None serious enough individually to result in discipline. But together, they painted a picture of someone who viewed his badge as a job, not a calling. Someone who did the minimum required and nothing more. Jennifer Martinez's family gave victim impact statements that brought the courtroom to tears. Her mother described getting the call that every parent dreads. Her sister talked about the vibrant, kind person Jennifer had been. Her young daughter, just 8 years old, asked in a victim advocate statement read to the court, "Why didn't the police come when my mommy called them? Aren't they supposed to help people?" The prosecution's closing argument was brief but powerful. Officer Webb took an oath. He swore to protect and serve. He was given authority, a weapon, special legal protections, and the public's trust. In exchange, he accepted a responsibility that when someone calls for help, he responds. Not after dinner. Not when it's convenient. Immediately. That night, Jennifer Martinez called. She did everything right. The system did everything right. Everyone did their job except the one person who mattered most. And she died because of it. This isn't about Monday morning quarterbacking or second-guessing difficult police decisions. This is about a man who chose pizza over his duty, who chose his appetite over someone's life. The law is clear. When such a choice results in death, it's called criminal negligence, and he must be held accountable. The jury deliberated for 2 days. When they returned, the verdict was guilty on all counts. The sentencing hearing was emotionally charged. Officer Webb made a statement, finally showing emotion. He apologized to Jennifer's family. He said he'd made a terrible mistake and would have to live with it forever. He asked for mercy, not for himself, but for his own family. The judge's statement was measured but firm. You were in a position of extraordinary responsibility. Citizens trust that when they call 911 in their darkest moment, someone will come. You betrayed that trust in the most callous way imaginable. This wasn't a split-second decision made under pressure. This was a series of choices made over 28 minutes. Every minute you spent in that restaurant was another minute Jennifer Martinez spent fighting for her life. I cannot and will not excuse that. Officer Marcus Webb was sentenced to 12 years in prison. His law enforcement certification was permanently revoked. He would be required to pay restitution to Jennifer's family. Though no amount of money could compensate for their loss, the case sparked broader reforms. The police department implemented new accountability measures. GPS tracking would be monitored more closely. Failure to acknowledge emergency dispatch within 60 seconds would trigger supervisor alerts. Body cameras could no longer be muted during duty hours. And the department established a civilian review board to investigate complaints of officer indifference or negligence. But for Jennifer Martinez's family, no reform could bring her back. No conviction could restore what they'd lost. They established a foundation in her name focusing on emergency response accountability and 911 system improvements. Detective Sarah Morrison, who led the investigation into Officer Webb's conduct, reflected on the case in a later interview. This job is built on trust. The public trusts that when they call for help, someone will come. Most officers honor that trust every single day. They run toward danger while others run away. They miss family dinners and holidays. They put themselves at risk. And then someone like Marcus Webb comes along and betrays everything those good officers stand for. He didn't just hurt Jennifer Martinez and her family. He hurt every police officer who actually does their job with honor. The attacker who killed Jennifer Martinez was eventually caught and convicted separately. Ironically, he was apprehended because he'd used Jennifer's credit card at a convenience store. And a police officer doing his job, responding to an alert, arrested him without incident. Years later, the case remains a cautionary tale in police academies and 911 centers. The split-screen video is shown to new recruits with a simple message. Every call matters, every response matters. And every second can be the difference between life and death. Officer Webb is currently serving his sentence. He's declined interview requests. Those who've spoken with him say he's expressed remorse, though whether it's genuine remorse for Jennifer's death or regret for getting caught remains unclear.
The question that haunts this case isn't complicated. It's heartbreakingly simple. What if he'd just done his job? What if he'd responded when dispatched? What if he'd put duty before appetite? Would Jennifer Martinez be alive today? Would her daughter still have her mother? Would her family not be carrying this unbearable grief? We'll never know, because Officer Marcus Webb decided pizza was more important than the life of someone calling for help. And by the time anyone realized what he'd done, it was too late to save her. The oath says protect and serve. It doesn't say protect and serve after dinner. It doesn't say protect and serve when convenient. It means always. Every time. Without exception, Officer Webb forgot that. And Jennifer Martinez paid the price.